I got stuck again. I built a study measuring kind of the strategic behavior and the intensity of something. I had kind of like all the theory laid out and like, oh, this is that part of strategy and like that kind of strategy. And like I really try to look at like kind of how people are using this for their own benefit. After spending about like 3 months on this, it turned out that most of that behavior, which I attributed to some mastermind strategy, was all predetermined rules. There were only very small deviations from the rules. So that had to go to the trash. Of course, I was quite frustrated about this, as you can imagine. So I spent a week completely ignoring the problem and just pretending that everything's fine and just like keeping myself busy with any other stuff, answering emails, developing some slides, and, keeping myself busy and not really thinking about like the fact that kind of I need to find a new direction for this research. But despite the ignorance being quite a comfortable strategy, I eventually had to come back to it. I have a deadline for a conference. It's a full paper conference in January. So by then I have to show something. Ignoring the issue just was not a long-term sustainable solution, as you can imagine. My solution was kind of starting to brainstorm plan B, C, D versions. Like, okay, so if I am not doing that as my research, then what can I do? What can get me to the conference and what will get me a full paper on such a short timeline? I spent a day kind of like brainstorming around with colleagues and whatnot. So I had a few solutions that were kind of okay, but of course, like none of them was the primary research that I was looking at. Like none of them was about that. I told my supervisors that like, they also were aware that like, I got a bit derailed on the research. But when I started to talk to them about like plan B and C and looking at completely unrelated stuff, they get a bit concerned for me. And this was very cute, they are super nice and super supportive. Me having a bit of a freak out like 3-4 months into the PhD might have something to do with this. If you want to hear more, I made a video about that, so you can check it out over there. But so they were very cute and very supportive, and just like they were very careful with like, okay, how are we doing? Like not just like research wise, but like, are we freaking out here again? And I'm not. You can also like expect to develop the calluses, but they just want to make sure that we are not freaking out. But they also told me that I shouldn't really kind of abandon this idea yet. And we should spend a bit more time workshopping this. The first thing they told me was to take some time off and like, I don't know, take a day off, go for a walk, take some photos of, I don't know, birds, take the girlfriend out to a brunch or whatever, just take a time off, take a step back. And I was really, really, really skeptical about that because, I spent 6 months scouring over this issue and I thought about this every which way and I twisted it left and right. And I was like, okay, so like, why would that help? It's if more thinking could solve this, it would have solved by now. So I was very skeptical, but one thing I learned that if both of them tell me to do something, I'm gonna do that thing. So I took a morning off and went for a nice walk and slept in and like kind of like let myself kind of zoom out and take a step back. And lo and behold, 3 days later, sitting here, I have a fresh spin on the idea. And of course, it's not perfectly clear yet, and it's not perfectly developed yet, but it's something fresh and something new. On an idea that I was convinced I thought every thought about. And that's because I'm amazing, but I was super obsessed with that for 6 months. And I was like, there is nothing new under the sun. Apparently there is. And all that really needed to happen was to kind of widen the frame a little bit. Because if you are just like too close to the problem and too caught up in it, a sort of like myopia will take you. And you will have a very hard time kind of thinking out of the box, which is most often what you need when you get stuck on issues around research. And sometimes indeed, the best thing you can do is just like take a few steps back and consider it from a distance and let your brain relax for a moment and let the idea find you down the line. Now, I also made a video about the other side of this incident, about like the freaking out part. And then I think it's really taught me, and this was like a very great illustration about that concept. In that video I just talked about like that I think that you're gonna be fine despite you feeling like that the world's ending. And to me this was a great proof of concept because I did feel like the world was ending a little bit on Tuesday when I talked to my supervisors. 3 days later, I'm sitting here recording this video and I'm having a pretty chill time. So if you're interested in seeing that side of the issue and seeing this whole story from a bit of a different angle, you can check out that video over there. That's it for today. I'm gonna see you next time.